It brings over 1,000 anglers to the lakes region. Our anglers are booked at hotels around the lake. They're used in the restaurants and the stores to get their bait, to get their food, whatever it might be. We're promoting local business right around the lake.
Welcome to WinniPlus, a podcast about the people, places, and businesses that define the culture of the Lakes region. Now for today's episode.
If you find yourself boating on Lake Winnipesaukee in mid-May, you may come across an unusual amount of fishermen zigzagging the lake north and south. And while salmon fishing officially kicks off April 1st, another event draws a crowd to the lake's region to catch the elusive species.
The Winni Derby is a salmon and trout fishing tournament on Lake Winnipesaukee. It started back in the early 80s. The Davis family had started the Winni Derby. It was a tournament designed for fishing the landlocked salmon, and it's been going on pretty strong ever since then. It's always going to be that weekend after Mother's Day.
This year is number 38 for the annual event, but it wasn't always run by the Daniel Webster Council, a chapter of the Boy Scouts of America. In 2017, Alton resident and fisherman Ray Meyer crossed paths with a Boy Scouts executive. And in that moment, he became the sounding board for the organization, and eventually, event chair.
I had been involved with tournament fishing on the bass fishing side for quite some time. In 2005, I became the youth director of our New Hampshire Bass Nation. And so I've been working with a youth club and running youth events for quite some time. And at the time, our council executive, Don, had come to me and said, "Hey, you know a lot about bass fishing tournaments." And I'm like, So I kind of knew where he was going with this in a way. And he had presented to me the idea of the council taking over the Winni Derby and making it a fundraiser for our programs and our camps here in the Daniel Webster Boy Scouts of America. So, and of course, I guess I was kind of suckered right in, but it was fun.
And while the event relies on a few dozen volunteers, a core group from the Boy Scouts of America rights the ship every year. Ask Bianka Cullen, Director of Development, a recent hire who was thrown into the deep end last year, just several days before the event began.
I started May 6th, and the Derby was right around the 11th or the 12th. Before I had even started, the executive director, Jay, asked me to make sure I reserve the weekend for my husband, my dog, and I to be up there all weekend to man the station on the Wolfboro side. And I coined it as I jumped in the deep end of Lake Winnipesaukee for this Derby.
What was your experience being a part of this Derby? What were you seeing? What was that experience like?
Well, what I really enjoyed was seeing all the families come off their boats and weighing in their fish, and seeing that it didn't necessarily need to be a person that has been fishing for 25 years with their dad. It could have been a couple kayakers that fish together and just doing their thing out on the lake and seeing if they can get a good prize and having fun.
Why do you think this event is so important to people of the Lakes region?
It brings over 1,000 anglers to the Lakes region. It's important because that's bringing business. Our anglers are booked at hotels around the lake. They're used in the restaurants and the stores to get their bait, to get their food, whatever it might be. We're promoting local business right around the lake.
Sponsorships have always played a crucial role in attracting fishermen. As far back as I can remember, the grand prize for the largest salmon was a boat. That's why when Cody Gray at Goodhue Boat Company was approached as being a presenting sponsor for the tournament, the answer was easy.
We're really good dance partners, I feel like, in the sense that we have great waterfront locations. And, the Winni Derby is an on-the-water event, but also requires some space to do things like weigh-in stations, to have some gifts or places for vendors and people to come together and enjoy the weekend. As the sponsor, we provide a Boston whaler boat for the Winni Derby, and we have an agreement with the with the Boy Scouts and with the promoters of the Winni Derby to make that happen, and we're super excited to be involved in it. One of the things that really stands out for me each year when it happens is they have different awards and prizes, right, that are kind of happening throughout the event. And it's awesome because they involve junior fishermen and they have special prizes for that category. And to see some of these really young people, some young kids that are involved in the sport, having a great time outdoors, enjoying the lake and the resources out there. And, they are really good at what they do as well. They catch some fish, they come into the weigh stations, they couldn't be more excited. And it's really fun to see them win some awards and, really just participate at the, at really the highest level when it comes to, to fishing in this area.
And before joining as a sponsor this year for his new business and product, the Bait Ripper, a mechanism that automatically jigs a trolling line, fisherman Mike Donovan has been an active participant in the tournament, even catching himself the winning lake trout at last year's tournament.
Well, I am a bit of a competitive person, but I also just love the camaraderie of being in a community of people that enjoy the same sport that I do. I have not a lifelong friend, but a friend that I've had for 40 years that also retired when I did. He lives in Denver, so he's come to visit me and fish with me at the Winni Derby, for the 4 or 5 years now that I've been in it.
Last year, you caught the largest lake trout. Talk a little bit about that day, catching that fish, and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, thanks. It was quite an exciting moment, but I'll just kind of lead up to it by saying, we fished all day Friday. We caught the fish at noon on Saturday. And up to that point, we had only caught a couple fish, only a couple salmon, and I don't even think we had caught a lake trout at that point, but we were targeting both. There's 2 divisions in the Derby. And I'd fished, had planned to fish down at the Broads on Saturday. So we went down there early in the morning and we fished probably, for maybe 3 or 4 hours before we even got any fish at all into the boat. And Tex, who's my friend, caught a salmon, and so we kind of had one in the boat for the day. And then it was about noon. It was a really beautiful day. The picture, I'll go back and look at the pictures and remind myself I was in a t-shirt, and this was, mid-May, right? And blue sky, it was calm, no wind. And we were fishing along this structure that I tend to go back to many times because I've done quite well there. And again, it was about noon, and at that time I was fishing a long line instead of down on a downrigger, down at 40 feet, and the fishing rod went off, and I could tell it was a pretty good fish, and we weren't sure until we got it to the net, but when we got it in the boat, I was like, that's a nice lake trout.
The tournament's coming up again. Do you feel like you need to defend your crown a bit?
Well, it's a nice thing to say, but there's like I said, a lot of fishermen and a lot of big fish. And I would love to be able to catch another fish like that. It would be incredible if I were able to do that 2 years in a row, but I'm certainly not expecting anything like that.
Mike's winning lake trout was 8.7 pounds, where he took home a Polaris ATV. And the grand prize salmon winner took home a Boston whaler with a fish just shy of 5.7 pounds. And if you're thinking about participating, the worst case scenario is you spend some much needed relaxation on the lake.
Any of those individuals that maybe have not participated in the Winni Derby, but enjoy getting out on the lake as an angler, it's only $55 to register as an adult. And that's not a bad donation to potentially win a really big prize.
If you happen to be on the water and come across some fishermen on the weekend of May 13th to the 15th, be sure to steer clear. Most fishermen will be trolling lines a couple hundred feet off the back. You don't want to cut their lines. They may be about to catch this year's winning fish.
This episode is over, but please visit WinniPlus.com for more adventure. WinniPlus, the #1 way to explore the Lakes region.